welcome back. In this chapter, we are going to build a full-on animated form right here. So as you can see, we also have a character here blinking and kind of looking at the form. And when we click on this your name here, we're going to have this nice elastic bounce effect to it. Bam. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And we are also going to cover validation here. So if I type in developed by Ed, as you can see, if it only has 1 or 2 characters, it turns red. But if we have more, it turns blue. Same with the email. So as long as it's a valid email, it's gonna turn blue. So that's quite nice. Same for phone numbers. We're gonna do validations and all of these color changes. And if one form is not complete like that, it's gonna just revert back to normal like that. So that's pretty cool. So let's type this back in here. And we also have a little bit of micro animation here. When we click on this notification, it turns nice and blue like that. That's pretty cool. And when we hit submit, our form's gonna get smaller. We're gonna have a nice little wave and a thank you message. All right, so this is really fun. Hopefully you're gonna learn quite a bit. This is one of my favorite projects in this course. So let's get going. Okay, so let's get our project up and going. So we're gonna start again, fully fresh. We're gonna head here to File, Open Folder. I'm just gonna make a new one called Forms. So I believe we started making them in this folder here somewhere. There we go. So we have our cookie, pop-up, text reveal, everything else. I'm gonna make a new folder here and call it Forms. There we go, and open this up. Now I'm gonna provide a few SVGs that I found, which are like the arrow tick and the character that we use. And at the end of this chapter, I'm gonna show you where I found them and how I optimized them to make them animate nicely. For now, you can just copy them over. They're gonna be linked in the course file on this video or besides this video. So I'm just gonna paste in our character, our elastic SVG. Again, everything is gonna be included. And even the final code is gonna have all of these SVGs. So these 3. And let me close that up. So make sure you get these 3. And then we're just gonna do a simple index.html, all the basic files that we use. So Shift1 and Tab is gonna generate our empty HTML. I'm gonna call this forms. Let's get a style.css here up and going, like that. We're gonna do our classic remove margins and remove paddings. So let's do that here. Siri, stop. It's just, the touch bar on the MacBook is always a nightmare. Okay, so just a little margin, 0, padding 0, and box sizing border box. Cool, hit save on that. Let's link it up here. So again, just a link, tab, /, style.css. All right, and then we can get our app.js going. And here we'll link it using script, source, /, app.js. And that's it. So now all we have left to do is bring in GSAP and maybe a nice font for us to look at, because the basic one is not pretty. So let's go and go to Google Chrome. Wait, I have 2 Google Chromes opened up. Let me close this one. Okay, so let's do Google Fonts. Go here, we'll get Poppins, because that's one of the nicest looking ones in my opinion. So let me just remove all of these that I had before. So click on Poppins. We're gonna select 2 of them. Let's do 400 here. So click on that, and we'll also get the medium and click on that. So this whole big thing here, we're gonna copy over. So Control C or Command C, and let's paste it up here. There we go. And last but not least, we'll get our GSAP. So again, just GSAP CDN. Go all the way down here to CDN.js, copy the script over, go back here, paste it, and we are ready to go. So that's all the setup we need. Not too much. We know we're quite comfortable with this already, hopefully. Yeah, let's start building out the HTML. Let's set up the HTML. So we're gonna basically break this up into 2 sections. Let me just open up the live server here with the finished product so we can see. So we're going to have this section, which is going to have the contact us and the text. This is going to be positioned absolute because we want to put it quite here at the edge of the corner. And then we'll have another section. So we'll do contact right, which is going to hold all the inputs and the button. Okay. So let me just minimize that. So let's get that up and going. So we'll have the left side now, which is the title. So I'll just add a little comment here just to make it clear. So left side of the form. And I'll just make the form out here actually. So form, I'll get rid of the action. Open this up. And then I'll just move this up here. No, Mozilla. Paste it here. Perfect. Okay, so here I'm just going to make a few divs. I'm going to call this contact left. So basically this contact left is going to hold the title here and the paragraph for us. Okay, let me minimize this. Perfect. So in here, we're going to have a H1. I'm going to call this title like that. Let me scroll down here. I'm going to call this contact us. And then we'll have a little description here, which is going to be a paragraph actually. So p dot description. I'm going to say, let's stay in touch. And I'm actually going to add a break here to kind of separate it. So br, like that. I'll add a dot here, like that. And after that, I'll say for more information, comma, I'll add another break. Just change this to BR, sign up, and hit save. Okay, so just a paragraph with some breaks in there, nothing too complicated. And that's it. That's all of our left side. Again, the image, the character that we have there animating is going to be positioned independently with position absolute. So don't worry about that for now. Okay, so let's add another comment here just to keep everything nice and organized. I'm going to call this right side of the form. Perfect. So here I'll make another div called contact right. Hit tab to generate that. And here we'll have quite a couple of things actually. So all the inputs will have a container. So I'm going to call them input container. So here's where we'll have the placeholder text, the input, and the line that's gonna, this elastic line here that animates. So it's actually 3 things here. So placeholder, the input there, and the line. Okay, so let's go. Let's do the placeholder first. So I'm going to say p class placeholder, like that. I'm going to call this your name, like that. And in here, I'm going to have an input that's going to be type text, which is fine. I'm going to add a name of names or name. I'm going to turn off autocomplete. This is optional, but you can add it if you wanted to. And here I'll add a class of input name and a general input, which all the inputs are going to have. Okay, so we have our placeholder, we have our input, and finally, I'm just going to go over here, and you can go as well, and we'll just copy over this elastic SVG. So copy that over and paste it down there. That already has a class of elastic line on it. I added it when I prepped up the SVG. Again, don't worry, I'll show you at the end of the episode, at the end of this chapter, how to get this ready. But essentially, it's just an SVG line. That's it. Okay, so that's it. That's one. So now we can just copy and paste this over. So click on the input container div here, and it's going to highlight everything for you. So we can just drag up like this and copy paste this 2 more times. So 1 and 2. And hit save. Okay, now we need to make some small modifications here. So for the second one here, we're just going to change it to your email. The input type here, let's see, it's going to be type email. And the name is going to be email as well. All right, then here, we're going to say input email. And that should be pretty much it. Everything else can be kept the same way. And finally, we'll do the same with the phone. So your number. Let's just say phone number, like that. And this is going to be a type of telephone. So T-E-L, T-E-L. And here input, let's do, let me see here, just 1 second. Input type, we'll do number, input number, input. Okay, that should be it. So we have that ready. Let's open up Live Server and see what we got going. There we go. So that's our SVG line. There's our input and there's our name. Perfect. Let's close this up. And after all of this, so let's go here. So highlight the input container, the last one. And after that, down here, we are going to have our little checkbox. So for that, let's do this. Let me see if I have the correct position of this actually. Let's see what this div is. Oh, that's the contact right. Okay, so here is where contact right ends. So we still want it in between these two on line 46. Okay, so for this one, we'll create a promo container. All right, so this promo container is basically, let me open up Safari so you can see. So the promo container is going to hold the box here, the check mark, SVG check mark, and this promotional text right here. So I'll create a promo container, and in here we'll have a checkbox container. And in here I'll have a check mark. I know this is a bit crazy, check mark. And then we'll have it fill up. So this is our actual check mark. And then we need another div to basically fill this up like that, right? So that's basically an empty div that's going to come over on top. And then another SVG animating in. Okay, so to do that, we have our check mark there. And then we'll do, and this check mark here is basically the border, the outlining border. So here we'll do check box fill, hit tab, and then another input here. So input type is going to be checkbox, just so we have something to click on. And this is going to be type checkbox. Checkbox, like that. Cool. Hit save. And then finally, we'll have our little SVG. So we need to look for, I copied over the wrong thing actually here. Let me get rid of this. Delete. I need to copy over the tick mark that's going to animate in. So I'll just paste that here. All right, so just grab this tick mark and paste it down here. Again, that's going to be included, so don't worry. And that's going to be it. I believe so. Let me double check to make sure we don't need anything else. Oh yeah, we can add the label, the text. So SVG, and outside of this checkbox container, we'll go down here and create a label. Get rid of this. And just say class checkbox label. And we're gonna say here, send me promotions and offers. That was a nice sneeze. Okay, and after this, out here, So after the label and this div, we're going to go here and just add a button that's going to say join. And that's it. Okay, so I know this is a bit like, whoa, that's so much damn HTML for a little checkbox. But unfortunately, you have to do some workarounds to animate a checkbox. There's no nice way of doing it. But again, nothing too crazy really. So this promo container, let me just go through it again to make it super clear. The promo container is going to be this whole section here. Actually, let me just open this up in Chrome and I'll inspect the element so you can see it. Actually, that might close up now because I don't have it open. Oh, there we go. So let me inspect the element. So here we go. Let's just look at the structure again. So this is our promo container here. This whole thing, right? So it holds the checkbox and the text and the label. If we open it up, then we have the checkbox container there. So again, we use this specifically to position absolute all the symbols inside. So the ticker, so that check mark there, the checkbox fill, right, which is going to kind of fill up the checkbox. As you can see, it's kind of down there and it's going to come on top of it. And then the actual input, and then the SVG. So again, we're using this to kind of just this check mark here, checkbox container, to position everything on top of each other. So we can start animating these different divs and SVGs in here. And that's it. And then we just have the label. Okay, so I hope that clears it up a little bit. All right, and that's it. I believe we have everything we need in our HTML. Let me also just pop this open and bring it over to Chrome. I prefer Chrome. If you want to use a browser, make sure you use Chrome or Firefox. Safari is quite bad. Okay, yeah, that should be it. Oh, and actually, we can bring in our character. We forgot about our character. But we can do that a bit later on because that's just a copy paste in. Okay, so that's going to be it for the HTML. Let's style this up and make it look pretty. See you there. Okay, let's get started on the CSS. So let's go over here to style.css. There we go. And for here, I'm just gonna grab our body, add a display flex to this, a justify content center, and align item center. So the whole reason we're doing this, just to put the form in the middle of the screen. That's it. And if we had a height of 100 VH, if we check up here, it just drops it right there in the middle. Okay, cool. We're gonna add a font family. We're gonna change it to the Poppins that we imported. So Poppins, comma, sans serif. Perfect. Then down here, we're gonna add a little background, a linear gradient, just to make this look a bit prettier. So linear gradient, we're gonna do 19 degrees. And the color I use for this one is gonna be, whoops, let me go back here. It's gonna be 6190 E8. So that's one, comma. And the second one is gonna be A7 BF E8. And that's gonna be it. Hit save. Let's take a look, and there we go. We have our nice gradient going. Cool. And that's gonna be it here for the body. So let's go over to the form. Grab the form. We'll add a little height to it. I'm doing 40 VH. A little width. I'm gonna do 40 VW. Right, give it a little size. Now add the background color so you can actually see it. So background white. There we go. So that's the size of our form. Again, you can change it, you can modify it, feel free. It doesn't have to look the same. I'm working on a really big monitor here, so if it looks a bit like the font sizes and the width and the height looks a bit different for you, just increase this to 50, 60, and the width as well, and you'll be fine. Color, we're gonna use, I found this nice gray for us. 777474. Let's hit save. There we go. That's looking nice. And then I'll add a border radius to it of 2 rem. That's going to make it look really pretty there. Perfect. And I'm going to add a bit of padding. So I'm going to say 3 rem and 5 rem. So 3 rem is going to be top and bottom, and 5 rem is going to be left and right. All right, so we want a bit more space on the left and right, and a bit less here. That's a preference, by the way. You can do it however you want. Okay, now let's grab the title. We'll do a color of, let's see, let's do 6391E8. Oh, it's actually the color from up here. So you can copy paste that over. Perfect. So there we go. That's what we have. You know what else we need to do is I want to put the contact. So the contact should stay here and the form should go on this side of the screen. So what I'm going to do here on the form is just add a display flex. So again, that's going to boop, drop it like that. Perfect. So now I want to make them the same size. As you can see, contact us takes up as much space as it needs, and then this section takes up quite a bit. So I want to make them the same size. And the way you can do that is we can grab contact right and then the contact left, and we can add a flex 1 to each. So if you add flex 1, that's going to make it the same size. Perfect. Now let's get the contact right. Contact right. Now let's display flex to it. Now I don't want it to be like that. So I'm going to do a flex direction column. So this doesn't do anything yet. Keeps everything the same way. However, what we can do is add a justify content space between, like that, to space these out a little bit more. Okay, now let's grab our input and start making some changes. I'll grab the input, make the width 100%, the height 100%, hit save. There we go. So now they're super big, as you can see. However, what I want to do in this case is I want to position the input over our container. So we don't have our container yet, but we'll grab it now and we'll position it on top of that. So if I grab the input container here, just so you can see, I have a background color of blue. All right, so that's our container. That holds our label, our name, and our line. So what I want to do is take this box, this input box, and place it right on top of the container. Okay, I'm going to remove this blue for now. So the way we can do that is add a position relative to the container and a position absolute to the input. So what we're saying is here is position this input relative to the container. So that, okay, we cannot see it yet, but what we need to do here is add a top 0 basically to it, top 0, and hit save. So there we go. So it goes right on top of that container. Perfect. I'm also going to get rid of the border. So let's do border. I'm going to say none. Okay, so that gets rid of everything. Now we cannot see the label because this input is on top of it, which is fine. We're gonna bring it in just a bit. Actually, let's do it now. So let's get that placeholder. So the way we can put it on top is go down here, grab the placeholder, add a position relative to it, and then all you need to do is add a z-index of 1. And that's going to put it right on top. So as you can see now, if we do an inspect element, placeholder. So here we go. We have our input container. There we go, input container. There's our placeholder, and our input takes up the full size of that container. So no matter where we're clicking here, it's always going to click inside that input, which is really nice, which is what we want. Okay, so now that we have that, what I also want to do is remove the pointer events from this text. I don't want this text to be selected. When I click on this text, I still want the input to be activated. So what we can do is just say pointer events, none. Hit save, let's try it, click, and as you can see, the form still gets clicked. I'll add a bit of padding to this, 0.3 rem and 0 rem, hit save. Now the reason why I'm doing this, I'm gonna remove it so you can see it. It's when we add the line, I want a bit more space for it. So let's add the line as well here, and then we'll kind of configure everything. Line SVG. So again, all I want to do here is do a position absolute. And in this case, I want to put it at the bottom of that input container. So it's going to be left 0 and bottom 0. And hit save. And there we go. So we have our line, we have our input, everything is working lovely. So again, I want to take this text and just put it a bit higher off the line. If you're still feeling a bit uncomfortable with the positionings and stuff like that, I do have a HTML and CSS course out there for you. Just a little plug there, cheeky little plug. Okay, so what I want to do here on the placeholder, let's add that padding in, 0.3 rem, 0 rem. Hit save. There we go, just separating it a bit more. And then I'll decrease the font size. I'll do 0.6 rem because it looks nice on my monitor. If it's too big for you, feel free, if too small for you, feel free to make it a little bit bigger. I'll do a little opacity here, 0.6 or so, just to fade it out, because it's more like a placeholder text, really. Okay, and that should be all good there. Let's fix up this checkbox down here. So for that, all we need to do is grab the checkbox. So let's go down here. Actually, let's do the checkbox. Checkbox label. We'll do a font size of 0.7 rem on this. Just like that. Okay. Let's do all the CSS for the promo container. So promo container. We'll add a position relative to this, which will not do anything yet. All I want to do is put this text besides the button there. So just the display flex is going to do it like that. Perfect. I'm using the position relative here to do some position absolute in just a bit. So I'm going to grab the checkbox, add an opacity of 0 to it, and a cursor of pointer. So this checkbox is the actual input. I don't really want to see it. It's not going to really do anything for us. I want to hide it. I just want this to be clickable. That's all. So checkbox done. Let me do a refresh on here. Okay, cool. Next up, let's grab the checkbox label. We'll add a bit of padding. Padding left 0.5 rem. And hit save, just to push it a little bit out to the side. Okay. Let's see why. I think this form, actually this page is not working properly. Oh, there we go, never mind. This is the finished one. Let me go back to it. There we go. Because this form is still clickable. So let me just see what's going on here. Input type checkbox, here it is. Okay, it doesn't seem to have the opacity 0 on it. So I might have made a little mistake. Let's just check here in our HTML very quickly. So let me open this back up. We should have a checkbox. Oh, I did check mark actually. So let's change this to checkbox and hit save. And now when we click on it, it's still not hidden. Let me do a refresh. What am I doing wrong? Let's see. Checkbox. Oh, that's the span. My apologies. Let me bring this back. I did have a oh, we don't have a class on here. Class checkbox. There we go. There we go. So now it's hidden. Perfect. That's what I want. Like, why is this opacity thing not working? Okay. So now we can grab the checkbox container, add a position relative to this. So this is the actual, like a fake div that we make it look like a checkbox. So we'll add a height to it of 1 rem, a width to it of 1 rem, just like that. And we'll add a border radius, 3 pixels to it. Okay. Hit save. Cool. So that's our little invisible checkbox container. Now we'll grab both checkmark and checkbox. We're going to add a position absolute to this. All right, so we're going to position it relative to this checkbox container. Add a bottom of 0, left of 0, a width of 100%, and a height of 100%. Let's hit save on that. And I'm also going to add a border of 2 pixels solid, and we'll use that nice gray color that we found. Oops, that's the wrong button. C5, 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 and hit save. So there we go. That's what we have right there. Perfect. So again, if we take a look at this, we just have an empty checkbox container basically, and we took the check mark, which is an empty span, and a checkbox and the checkbox input, and we put it right on top of each other. Okay, that's all we've done. Okay, let me go back here to the codes. There we go. Now we're going to grab the checkbox fill, which is this thing that's going to come on top of it. That whoop, like that, filling it up. So what we need to do there is just grab the checkbox. I cannot type. Checkbox fill. Add a position absolute to it. Again, we're going to place it relative to this container again. We'll add a nice background color to it. So we'll do, keep pressing this button. We'll do that 6 tree again. I'm going to do width of 100% and height of 100%. So it takes up basically the size of the container. And hit save. Let's see. So that's what we made, that little checkbox that's going to be filled up. What I want to do is push it down by 100% like that, because that's going to come on top of it right, like that. Now I don't want it to show up now. So what we can do is add an overflow hidden to the checkbox container. So we can go up here, add an overflow hidden. Hit save. Let's take a look. And there we go. Look at that. It's all nice and hidden. Perfect. Let's see what else we need to do. So that's all sorted. We have our checkbox fill done. And then we just need the tick mark. So we'll grab the tick mark, add a position absolute. We'll do a top 50%, left 50%, and a big Z index so we can see it. I'll do 2. Okay, still cannot see it. Let's see where, oh, it's right there. Is that gonna show up? No, it's not gonna show up. Oh, it's because we have overflow hidden on top of that. Okay, so what we can do is, it's there, you can barely see it, but what I want to do is perfectly position it in the middle. So we can use that transform, translate, minus 50%, minus 50%. Okay, so it's right there in the middle. Now you can see it. It's still white colored. I guess if I go here on top of it, I can change it for you to see it better. Let's see, where is it? Form, body, element style, fill, red. All right, so it's there. Is this the tick mark? Yeah. What I'm going to do is also scale it down a little bit. So scale. 0.6. Yep, 0.6. And hit save. Okay, perfect. Ooh, this is a longer video, isn't it? I guess I can show you if I just remove the top and width here, the top 100%, and go over back here. There you go, you can really see it now. So it's right on top there. Perfect. And I added the fill red to it, which actually we don't need, but there it is. All right, if it's too big, just scale it down a little bit more. If it's fine, then just leave it like that. Okay, I'll add the top 100% back here. Perfect. Finally, let's see what else do we need to do here. Let's go back. We'll do the button. So let's go back here. Well, we can do down here. Button. We'll just add some styling to it, some basic styling. So let's do a font family of pop-ins. Sans serif. We'll do a font weight 500. Font size of 0.6. Okay, we'll do a background color of that blue. Color is going to be white. Add a small border radius to it. 0.2 rem, that's going to look fine. Border style, we'll say none, get rid of the border. Add a bit of padding to it, 0.5 rem, 2.5 rem. Cursor pointer. Again, this is kind of boring stuff just to make a button look nice pretty much. We'll add a bit of margin top of 1 rem. And that should be it. Lovely. Perfect. So there we go. That's what we have right now. Can we do an align self? Let's see, align self, flex start, like that to make it small. Yeah, that looks good to me. Perfect. So that's looking great. Let's see here. What else do we need to do? We'll have another something pop here after we submit the form, but we'll do that a bit later. So that's going to be the basic styling. If we do need anything else, like, I don't know, we'll see. We'll just quickly jump back and add anything that we need. Okay, I'm going to leave it because it's a 20-minute video already. So I'll see you in the next part. Bye-bye. Let's bring the elasticness to the input. So that's what we're going to do in this episode. We're going to make the inputs elastic. Ugh, that was tough to say. I really wanted to make this effect because I always saw it used in like video editing. You know, people would make this nice, but I couldn't find examples using HTML and CSS or JavaScript on the internet that were not too complicated. So with GSAP, I'm going to show you a cool way that you can achieve elastic inputs using just a simple easing function. Okay, so let's head over to our JavaScript and get going. So what I'm going to do first of all is create a variable, so containers. And this basically represents each input container. All right, so with the line, with the placeholder, and with the input. So document, dot query selector, all. So we're going to select all the containers, dot input container, like that. Perfect. Let me make sure I'm recording this video because I did it once before where I did half an hour and I did not save it. Good. Okay, next up, I'm just going to select the form, document, dot query selector. So this one is a normal query selector, so we're not going to do all, just query selector. And finally, we'll create a timeline. So const dl equal to gsap.timeline. And in here, I'm going to do curly brackets, default, curly bracket again, duration 1 second. Okay, so I'm just going to set the default duration to all my animations. Okay, now we're going to mess around with the line. So here's the thing. I'm going to show you this at the end of the chapter, but I do want to give you a general idea of what's going on. So here is Figma. So essentially what I did, so that SVG that we have there, that elastic SVG, this is all it is. Let me just go here, is essentially I just went here and drew a line like this. I drew a line, holding shift, let go. Okay, let me zoom in here. And I took this line, I flattened it to make it the path. All right, because if it's not, then SVG is going to recognize it as a line. But if it's a path, what we can do now is here, I can just double click it and click once to add a point to it. All right, and now that I have a point, I can bend it up and down. Now let me go back to how it was before. And I can also add a curve to it. So if I go over to this tool right here, I can just drag this and holding shift to keep it straight, drag this all the way like that. And now if I bring it down, whoops, let me go back. So after I drag it out like that, I'll actually go back to this tool to grab that middle point. I can move it down and up like that. Okay, so what I did is I left it like this, right clicked, and did copy as SVG. Copy as SVG, and look, if I paste it, it's going to look exactly the same as this code. Paste, right? Give or take, it's the same thing. I just added a class of line SVG here, but it looks just about the same. Perfect. So that's what I did. And then to get so that's the path here and basically the position of our line. And then what I did was I double clicked on it, dragged it down a little bit like that, holding shift to keep it straight. And then I did a copy SVG again. Copy as SVG. And what I did here, paste it in again, is I just took this path here and commented it out up here. So that's going to be our starting position, this path, and this is going to be our ending position. So it being bent down. Okay, so that's what we're going to paste in here. We're going to do const start and set it equal to, I said that I'm going to explain this at the end of the video, but I just did the whole thing anyway. So the const start here of the line is going to be this. So I'm going to just copy this over. Let me go over here like that and do a copy. I'm going to paste it here. Let me remove the end ticks here like that. So that's the start. And then I'm also going to have an end. So that's going to be the bend down version of it. This here. So copy that over. I'm going to add quotation marks and paste it and hit save. All right, there we go. So now let's get the elastic effect going. So I'm just going to add a little comment there. So what we're going to do is we're going to loop over. We don't need this anymore. Let me open this up. We're going to loop over each of these containers, 1, 2, and 3. All right. And we're going to loop over and we're going to check if that input is focused. So as you can see, when that border comes on, the outline comes on, it means it's focused. So if it's focused, do the bouncing effect. Okay. So containers dot for each. So for each container like that, we're going to run an arrow function here with curly brackets. Okay. And now for each input that we click on, we need to add an event listener. So check if that input is focused. Now that's why we're looping over them, because now in here, we can just grab the input. So I can say const input equal to container.querySelector. So you can do query selectors like this as well on that specific container that we're looping over. So make sure you're grabbing each input from each container. We can do the same with the line as well. Const line container.querySelector. I'm going to do elastic line and also the placeholder text container.querySelector placeholder. All right, so we have access to each individual one in here. So now what I'm going to do is say input dot add event listener on click run an arrow function. Okay, So here I'm going to check if the input has a value on it. So if it already has some text on it, I don't want to run the animation, only if the input's empty. So I'm going to say if input.value like that. So this means that if it doesn't have any value, then run the animation. All right. So this is a check to see if there is any text in the input. All right, so in here, what we're going to do is do a TL from to, so just a normal animation. And what I want to do is grab the line. So we have access to that specific line that we click on. All right, because we're selecting it in here. Because if we do like a normal line like this, it would just grab all the lines because they're named the same way. So that's why when we're doing this for each, we can specifically select that specific container's line. So line, and now to actually animate that path, what you can do here is add some curly brackets like you'd normally do and say attr for attribute. And in here, you can do another curly bracket and say D. And now that's going to be the start. So our starting position here that we selected, start. So this is our from. And then we're going to do to. So from attribute D start to attribute D end. All right, so that's going to animate the path for us. And finally here, I'm just going to add an easing to it. I'm going to do, actually it's going to be here. Ease. We're going to do a power to.ease out. That's going to look nice. I'm also going to change the duration to this, duration to 0.75 seconds. All right, that's it. So that's all you need to do. So let's take a look now if it works. Let's go back here. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. Let me pop this open for you. So click. Now there's a couple of issues. So the outline here is hiding the line. So we cannot see it. So to fix that, let's go here to style.css and find the input. So this one here. And let me just think a bit, how was the actual thing to get rid of that outline? So we can do outline of none. Hit save and let's take a look. So click and look at that, it goes down. But it gets hidden because there's overflow hidden there on the path. So that specifically is an SVG issue. So if your path leaves, remember the path is inside the SVG if we take a look here. So as you can see, we have the path there. This is the SVG and there's our path, right? So if the path leaves the SVG, it gets hidden. So what we need to do is select the SVG and add an overflow of hidden, and then we can see it. Doesn't matter if it leaves that specific container. So let's go back to our code and find the line SVG here, and we'll just add an overflow of visible. Let's make the opacity a bit less as well, 0.8. Hit save to make it look a bit fancier. And there we go. So there it is. Now it works. So click and whoop, it bends down like that. How nice. Now, as you can see, it bends down, but we have this weird issue of if I click on this one, that stays bent down. Why? Because we're doing it on click. So if I go back here, you're going to see that we're doing it on click. If I change it to focus, no two elements can be focused at the same time. So now if I click on this and click on this, well, actually you still cannot see it because we do need to revert the animation. You're going to see that when it comes to the label, it's going to animate back once it's not focused anymore. Okay, so let's just make it bounce back. So now it just moves down. So in this if statement now, after this first line of TL, we're going to add another one. We're going to say TL2. We're going to grab that line again. We're going to do another attribute like this. So curly brackets, attr. the start. So move it back to the start. So we bend it down and then we want to move it right back up. Okay, now let me add a comma here. Like that. The start. Let's just keep it like this, just so you can see what's going on. So boom, boom, and it just moves back. Now it doesn't have any bounciness or anything. So this is where we can use the easings. So GSAP ease. So let's go here. We're going to use elastic. So let's go to elastic and we can modify this to make it a bit nicer. So if we run this, it looks like that. Now, if we increase the first property here, so this one here, we put it to 2, it's going to give a bigger bounce. If we do 3, it's going to give an even bigger bounce. Boom. And this one here, the 0.3, gives us the number of bounces. So if I put this to 1, it's going to be just 1 and it's going to smoothly come back. If I do 0.4, it's going to do quite a few. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so the one I found that works really nice is 3 here and then 0.5 here. I feel like that's quite nice looking. So let me copy paste this over. Actually, let's just write it out here. So I'll add a comma, just say ease. And I'll say elastic dot out 3, 0.5 and hit save. Let's take a look. Go back here. Boop, boom. New, boom. That looks really cool, doesn't it? Let me zoom in here for you. Boom. Now I want it to go a bit faster, so I don't want that big of a delay. So what I can do here is just at the end of this, I can add a comma, add the curly brackets here, and just say less than sign 50%. So run this animation 50% whilst this runs. So this lasts for 0.75, right? So halfway through this, start running this. There we go. So it blends it a bit nicely together. So if I change this to click, let me see if this does it now. So as you can see, if I click on it, and then I can still click on it, and I don't want that because maybe I'm typing and I want to click, and then it's going to do the bounce. So if I change this to focus, it's already focused, so it's not going to run it again. See? So that's quite nice. So you only get it once. And there we go. That's how we get our little bounce effect. How simple is that? You just need the paths and just a nice easing, and you get this very, very cool elastic effect. Feel free to experiment with this. You can get some quite wacky ones, but this is subtle and nice in my opinion. So I'm going to stick to this. Okay, let's go. Alrighty, next up we're gonna take a look on how to make the placeholder jump up right here in this small little corner. Okay, so let's get the code back up here on the screen. So for that, let's just go here. So we have our input check, and right after this whole debacle here, let's see here, after this TL, we're gonna hit enter. I'm gonna say placeholder shift. Okay, so here we're going to do a TL2. I'm going to grab the placeholder. Again, we're selecting this up here, so we have access to it. Placeholder, comma. I'm going to do a top -15, so that's going to move it up a little bit. I'm going to keep the left position at 0. I'm just going to scale it a bit down, so scale it to 0.7. I'm going to also add the duration to this. Duration of 0.5. And I'm going to add an easing of power2.ease out and hit save. Okay, so that's it. Just move it up a little bit basically and scale it down. And that's going to be it. So let's take a look how it looks. So let me open up the Chrome. Here we go. So click and then whoop, it goes up. Now, why does it go up there and not here? Because we specifically said, hey, do left 0. So it should stay on the left side. Well, it's basically how transforms are happening. So when you're scaling something down or rotating something, it's always going to do it from the middle point. So we need to modify the origin of where it animates from. So it's a super easy fix. All we have to do is go over to style.css. Let me look for it. It's going to be our placeholder text. Let's find the placeholder text. Where are you, Mr. Placeholder? Here. So again, all we need to do is change the transform origin to left, and that's it, and hit save. So let's go back here. Let's open up Chrome and see how it does. Look at that. Boop. All right, so it starts scaling to the left side of the text, so where the Y is. So it scales in that direction and not on the right or the middle. All right, so that's it. That's a super easy fix. Now, one thing I don't like is the timing on these. So when I click it, boop, after it goes up. So I want it kind of to time it with the bounce. So when the bounce, it looks like it's going to push it up basically. So let's see, let's go back here. I want to basically do a little delay. So let's try add a comma here after the curly bracket. Let's do 15% and see how that looks. There we go. Boom. So it looks like we're bouncing it up. That looks really cool. I'm happy with that. Okay, so that's going to be it. This is a short one, quite simple to do. Next up, what we're going to do is after we click off of this, I want this to revert back to its original position. All right. Now, if it has text in it, then I don't want it to come back down. So that's what we're going to fix. Also, whilst we're at it now, let's make this text a bit smaller and a bit more stylized. We'll add that gray color to it to kind of match, because it looks quite weird right now. It looks a bit out of place. So let me open this back up, hide that, go over to style.css, and on the input, we'll just add a color of gray. So we can use this gray color here and just change the font size to something like 0.7. There we go. So that looks much nicer now. Cool. All right. See you in the next chapter. Video, not chapter. Damn it. Okay, so let's get that reset up and going. So it's going to be quite simple. Let's go over to our app.js right here. And let's see where we need to add this code. 1 second. Just want to make sure I get the correct position of it. So we have our focus here. Okay, and then we have our container here. So let's see, do I still want it in that container? So we'll do it outside. We don't need to be in this whole section here. So on the outside here, we're going to say revert back if it's not focused. Okay. So I'm going to do a similar thing. I'm going to add an event listener on the form. I'm going to say click like that. We don't need the event actually. So we can just run an arrow function. I'm going to do this whole looping thing again. So we can pretty much just kind of copy paste it over. So I'm going to do a containers dot for each container, run an arrow function here. I'm going to copy over these three, copy, paste it down here, add the C because I missed it. And here what I want to do is basically check if our document.activeElement does not equal to our input. So if we have the input selected, that's all fine and dandy. But if we don't, if it's not an input, then revert back. All right, so open this up. I also want to check if it has any value in it. So if the input has value, then don't run the animation. Don't revert back to its original state. Okay, don't bring the placeholder on top of the text because we already have information in there. So we can just do if input.value. So if the if it's empty, then revert back. If it's not, then don't. Okay, so that's it. So all we need to do is do a gsap 2, we'll grab the placeholder, comma, and we'll do a top 0, comma, left 0, and we'll scale it back up. Scale to 1. Duration, we're going to put 0.5. We're going to add that power easing to it. So ease power 2.ease out. Okay, and that's going to be it. So let's take a look. Oops, here. So if we click on it, boop, jumps up. If we click on something else, so if the active element is not an input, revert it back. And we also had that if statement, if the input value is nothing, also revert back. However, if we do have a value, then it doesn't. It stays right there. So there we go. How about that? That was quite simple and fun, wasn't it? I agree. Okay, let's move on to the next episode, shall we? Fade out effect. Okay, next up, we are gonna validate the email and the phone number and add a little spice of color to it. Now, I found 2 functions out there on the internet. I'm gonna add these to the app.js files. You can copy them over. It's gonna be in the finished files. And you can just paste them down here. All right, so this is how it looks like. This is the whole code. Or you can, I guess you can just stop the video a bit and copy paste this over. It's literally, you don't need to learn this really. You can just Google a function that validates email and it's gonna give you this result and this result. But if you wanna stop it and copy it over, feel free. All right, so 1 for validating email, 1 for phone. For the text, for the name, really, I just wanted to have, like, if it's longer than 2 characters, it's fine, really. So, okay, so we have that. Now what I want to do is run some validation. So let's go on up here. So after this whole input section right here, let me just make sure I'm placing it correctly. Okay. So input ends here. So 1, 2, 3. All right, so after the 3 curly brackets here, we will do our validation. So all we really need to do is grab all the inputs and add an event listener of input on them. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I want it to turn color. If it's correct, then it fades to a nice bluish color. If it's not, then it fades to a reddish color. I'll pass in the event here like that, because from this event, we can basically extract the text that we're writing on the input. So what I'm gonna do first of all is check if e.target, all right, so the input that I'm clicking on is type text. Now, I only have one that's type text, and that's the name input. All right, the other one's email and the other one's phone. So if the e.target type is text, then what I want to do is get the actual text that the user writes. So I'm going to create a variable called input text and set this equal to e.target value. That's how you can extract the text that the user is typing in. And now all I want to do here is say if input text the length is bigger than 2, then it's going to be fine and dandy, and it's going to be valid. So here, I basically want to colorize it. Colorize. So I'm just going to make a function separately down here to colorize it. Let's just go here. So we're doing the validation and everything. And here, let's do a colorize function. So all we need to do, it's going to be quite simple, actually. I'll create a function called colorize. And we can pass in basically the color that we want to use and the things that we want to color in. So I want to color in the line and also the placeholder text, like that. And here I want to do a gsap.to. So I want to grab the line and change the stroke color to color. Okay, we're going to pass this down. So we're just going to use arbitrary text here. So actually need the curly brackets there. So stroke to color. And the duration is going to be 0.75. And this needs to go in there as well. What am I doing? There we go. So duration 0.75. Cool. So that's one. So we're coloring in the line. Again, I'm not specifying what color yet. I'm just kind of placing it down here. GSAP2 will also grab the placeholder and add a curly bracket here. And the color, again, is going to go to color, whatever we're passing it down, and add the duration as well, 0.75. So again, now when we're invoking this function, we need to pass down all these three properties. So what color, which line, and which placeholder. Luckily, we have access to them because we pass it down here. So if the length is bigger than 2, that means that it's all good and dandy and it's correct. So I want to add a nice blue to it. Now I found one, so you can just do this. You can follow along. Colorize, I'm going to call this function. And remember, I need to pass in these three parameters. So the color, so I'm going to do this one. Oops. Where is that? This is, oh my God, my struggles with the hashtag. So 6391E8. All right, that's the color. And I can just pass down the line and the placeholder in here. That's it. And else, here I'm going to pass in an else statement. So if the text is not longer than 2, then I want to turn it red. So I'll just modify this to FE. This is a nice red color here, 8C99, and hit save. And that should be it. Let's take a look. So let's head back to Chrome, click on it, and once we start typing, look at that, it turns into a nice red. But once it's correct, it starts fading into a nice blue color. Yay! Easy peasy, wasn't that? So now we can easily just make the rest of these. So we can call this name validation. And after this section here, so here we'll have the email validation. So for this, again, we can pretty much just copy paste this over. So click here where this curly bracket is on the if statement. So right here, just gonna grab this whole thing, copy. Am I putting it correctly? Oh, it needs to be here actually. So after this if statement, let me move this up here. So click here, yeah, so after this if statement, validate email. We still wanna be in this input here. So paste it. All we need to do is change this to email. So if e.target type is email, and then here for the valid email, we'll just change this to valid. We can run that function that we got from the internet, validate email, and we'll just pass in the e.target value in here, okay? And here for the check, we just need to pass in valid because this validate email is gonna return either true or false. So if we check here, it's gonna run the test based on the text we have. And if it's correct, it's going to return true. If it's not, then it's going to return false. So if this is automatically going to work. And then we can do the same for the phone number. So let's click here. Okay, so at the end of this again, validate phone. We can do a nice copy paste. Copy and paste it down here. Hit save. And here we'll just need to replace this with validate phone. And here the type to telephone. And that should be it. Let's hit save. Let's see if that's working. All nice and dandy. Yep, go back here. Click, type. Okay, so that's not okay. So if I do the valid by add, and that's correct. Go to the next one. Type, incorrect. As soon as it starts looking like a valid email, it's gonna turn nice and blue. Perfect. And same for the phone number. So text is not gonna work, but like that. And everything is nice and good. Click back and that's it. Perfect. So there we go. That's it. That's the validation all done. Next up, we're going to head into making this checkbox nice and clickable and then finishing it up with the button. So I'll see you there. It's time to animate the checkboxes. So let's go. It's going to be quite simple, quite straightforward. So let's get into it. Okay, so after all of this colorful situation here, let's just go here at the end of the code and do a checkbox animation fill. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is select that checkbox. So we're going to do document, query selector. We're going to select the checkbox like that, dot checkbox. We're going to create a timeline. I'm going to call this TL2. So gsap.timeline. And this one is going to take a default in. Like that. We're going to do a duration of 0.5, quite fast, and an ease of power to dot ease out. Like that. Hit save. Alrighty, so we have that. Now what we're going to do is grab the path. So we're going to say const tick mark path. Now what is this? So the tick mark, which is like this, choop, choop. We're going to grab the path of it and animate in the line. So the way we do that is grab the path first of all, document, query selector, dot tick mark path, like that. Okay, hit save. And now we can do path length. And set this equal to length. Okay, let me make sure I spell that correctly. Tick mark path dot get total length. All right, save. So again, it's this tick mark here. If I pull it up in Figma, I don't think I have it in here actually. But yeah, a tick mark, right? So I guess I can do it here. If I just do a pen tool, so boop, 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 like that, and hit done, make this thicker. So what we're doing is we're grabbing it, and then we're getting the length of it. And with stroke dash array, we can basically animate it. We can do the starting position, so it's all hidden, and then animate the whole length of it all the way out. So you get this like typewriting effect, this handwriting effect on the tick mark. So the way you do that here, make sure you add parentheses at the get total length. So that's going to get the length of the path. And then what we can do is we can set, so we can use gsap.set to basically hide it. Actually, we're going to do this a bit later. Let me just keep this like that. Let's just make the fill in, because I wanted to fill in with the blue and then for the tick mark to appear. So let's just grab the checkbox for now, add an event listener, on click. And here I'm going to run an arrow function. I'm going to say if checkbox is checked. Remember, we have that input in there, so we can just run this little check here. So if we click on it and if it's checked, we can do TL2 to grab that checkbox fill. This is that empty div that we have that's below it. And I can just move the top of it to 0%. Remember, we moved it down to 100%. So let me go back to the code, to the website, click. So when we click on this, it's gonna, that div is gonna just come all the way on top like that. Okay, click, boom, and it's gonna fill it up. Cool. So that's one done. And let's see what else we need. Okay, so that's one TL. We can do another one from 2. So we can get the tick mark path like that. So now we want to animate that in. So the way you do that is from a stroke dash offset. So this is the property that we need to use. And we can set the path length to it. So this is the starting position. And then the second parameter is going to be stroke dash offset back to 0. So if you add the path length to it, it's gonna make it completely hidden. And then if you take the dash offset away, it's gonna fully animate in. So let's click on that. Now it's still there. So what we need to do is actually set the initial property of this to that stroke dash offset. So you can use gsap set to set some basic styling on a specific element. So here, maybe I can do a gsap.set and I can grab the whole checkbox and add maybe an opacity of 0, okay? So it's not gonna animate anything, it's just gonna set a property just like you would set it in style.css. However, in this case, we need it here because I wanna set the stroke dash offset to that path length that we have here. So gsap.set, so these are the two properties that we need to set. Thicker, what is it? Thick mark path, comma. I need to set the stroke dash array and stroke dash offset to the path length like that. So dash offset and stroke dash array. So these are the two that we need to set to path length. Okay. If you want to learn more about SVGs and setting these, doing this handwriting effects, Google it. There's only one way of really doing it that I found that's really good, and that's just pretty much just doing this. Set the stroke dash offset and stroke dash array to the length of the SVG, and then animate the offset back to 0. That's essentially it. So let's see if that works. Click on this. I cannot click on this now. So maybe we need to do some pointer event stuff, but looks like it's still not animating in, unfortunately. So let's see what's wrong with this. It might be that, let's see, why is it not doing it? Let's see if we have any errors, just to be sure. Console. So it says, so GSAP actually has a plugin to do this kind of handwriting animation, but you have to pay for it, unfortunately. So that's why we're kind of experimenting here to kind of try to do it vanilla style without paying for it. But yeah, if you really want it, there's an extension for it here in GSAP that you can pay for it, and it's like one line of code. But no, we're not doing it that way. So let me make sure everything is correct. So let's look here. Let's go all the way to the top. So we have our checkbox. Grab the checkbox. We have GSAP timeline defaults. That's correct. That should be fine. Tick mark path here. Query selector to tick mark path. Let's see if that's correct in the HTML. So tick mark. There we go. So tick mark. And where's the path of this? So here's the path. This one has elastic line on it, so I'm not sure that's actually correct. Elastic line. It should still work because we're grabbing the path. So that should be okay. Let me just make sure here. Yeah, that should still be fine. Sometimes you really don't know what's messing it up, unfortunately, and you have to go through it line by line. But hey, nobody's perfect. This is how we learn. So tick mark, that should be fine. Tick mark, path. Okay, that's good. Let's make sure everything else in the JavaScript is correct. Tick mark path, so we get the tick mark path, get total length. So let's see if this returns us actually the length, path length. Just console log that out. And it does. We have 21, so that works. Perfect. So let's get rid of this. So it might be here actually that we messed it up. Yeah, so stroke dash array here needs to be lowercase. So make sure you get that correctly. Stroke dash array is lowercase and hit save. Let's see if that fixes it. Oop, no errors. Click. Now we need to fix this pointer events issue. It's still messing it up for us. So let me zoom in, click, and look at that. We have the nice fill going on. Perfect. So now let's also revert it. So you have to kind of go on the edge here. So that's the issue, that we can only click on this border for it to work, but that's fine. We're gonna fix it in just a bit. Okay, So that's done. Now here, after this statement here, else, I can add an else and just revert everything back. So we can do tl2.to. We can grab the checkbox fill, add a comma, and do a top 100%. All right, so we're reverting back the fill, and also TL from to, we're reverting back that animation. Tick mark path, comma, whoops. So this, let's make sure not to add this in a curly bracket. Tick mark path, comma, stroke, dash offset. Let me grab that. From 0 back to the length of it. Stroke, dash offset to the path length. All right, so just a reverse. Let's also make this a bit faster. So I'm going to do 50% here, smaller than 50%. I'm also going to do it up here. So let's see. Comma. Oops, it needs to be out here. Comma. 50%. And hit save. Okay, let's see. Click. And boom, we have that nice animation, and it also goes back the other way. How cool is that? I also want to make this blue. So once this is clicked, make sure this turns blue as well. So here we'll do another TL2. We'll grab the checkbox label, add a comma. We'll change the color over to that nice, lovely blue. Color. So it's going to be 6391E8. Okay. And I want this to happen at the same time. So I'm going to add a comma and a smaller than sign. I'm going to copy this over and add it to the else statement here. So right after this whole thing, paste it there and just change the color to that gray. So C5, C5, C5. And that's it. Hit save. Let's take a look now. Click, and look at that. Turns blue. How nice is that? Awesome. Now the only thing left that I want to do is I want to be able to click on this just kind of in this area, because right now I have to click on that border. So let's go and inspect our CSS and see what we can do. Let's head back here to style.css, go over where we have all of our checkbox things going on. So it's here. So padding left, and then we have the width, we have overflow hidden there, we have our check marks going on, we have our checkbox fill, and our tick mark. Okay. Interesting. Let's see. Let me go back here a little bit and inspect this, just so we're all clear of what's going on. Let me go over here and zoom in. Let me go out of this responsive mode. So click off of this. Just zoom in. So let's see what's selectable. So I have the cursor over to whatever is selectable here. So I believe that's the actual input. So let's see if we go on the input and add a z index of 10. Let's see if that works. There we go. It does work. So let's just add a z index to the input, and that should fix our issue. Let's go here, checkbox. So I believe this is the one, z index 3. Okay, just to make sure it's always on top. And there we go. Look at that. Let me do a refresh. Doop, 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 doop. Awesome. So let me go back here a little bit to the app.js. And let me also look at something here very quickly. So we have our timeline. Duration is 0.5. That's totally fine. Yeah, everything else should be okay. Let's see why this doesn't animate. Actually, this label is giving us a bit of trouble here. It doesn't look like it's animating out actually. It animates in, and it just instantly disappears. So let's see why that happens. So checkbox label here. Oh, it needs to be TL2, TL2. I messed that one up. So make sure you update everything to TL2 here and hit save. It's kind of being a little bit buggy. And now it's not anymore. Nice and smooth. That's how we like it. All right, that's going to be it, the checkbox. And we're going to finish off with the character and submitting the form. So I'll see you there. Okay, let's bring in our little character now. So let's head over to our HTML. Let's go over here. Hey, where is it? Where is my monitor? I cannot find it. Okay, so here, we're going to copy this whole thing over. So just Command Alt Control, grab it. We're going to put it right here inside the form. So let's see where the form is here. So still inside the form. Right there, and hit save. Now, this is a huge one, so just go up here where it says SVG, right here, and just collapse it here. So you can hit this arrow, and then it's nice and clean, all right? But it's there. Cool. Okay, so let's take a look now if we can see him. Let's head over here. There he is, the big boy. Now we want to add a position absolute and just put him here in the corner and then run some animations on him. So let's go to our style.css and just make a little thing here for him. So and here we go. Right here. That's a good spot. Okay, it's going to be very simple. Just do a hashtag again. I'm going to mess this up again. Just watch. Hey, got it. Character. So it has an ID of character on it, a position of absolute. We're going to transform and just scale him down slightly to 0.7 because he's gigantic. Hit save. And then we're going to place him on the bottom left corner. So bottom left 0, 0. Let's take a look. Now he gets put here because it's positioned absolute to the body. So we have to make sure that we specify that it should be relative to the form. So all we need to do is go to the form right here and add a position relative. And that should be it. Ugh. There we go. I'm just making sure I'm still recording. And there he is. Yay, let's go. So that's cool. Now again, based on scalings and transforms, I wanted to start scaling from the bottom here. So he goes all the way down here. So let's go down again to the character. I'll do a transform origin to the bottom. All right, there we go. So now it touches the corner there. Cool. So now depends again on your monitor and everything. This worked for me. A translate of 0% and 30%. Just kind of mess around with this and see kind of the position that you like. If he's still too large on your screen, feel free to scale him down a little bit like that. Just whatever, just do whatever to make it look okay. Now, when I made this SVG, I added an ID to the hand, to the eyes, and a few others. So we can just easily animate that. So let's go over to app.js. Again, I'm going to show you at the end how I added that. It's super simple. So let's just head over to Chrome for now. The code actually, not that. And let's go over to our app.js and do a little movement on him. So I want to animate his eyes a little bit. I don't know, just a little bit of fun. Okay. Let me see what I have here. So let's just do this. GSAP, so animating character. Okay, GSAP, we'll do GSAP from 2. I'll grab his eyes. So the way I can do that is with eye like this. That's the ID I added to it. I'm just gonna add a scale Y, so vertically from 1 to scale Y 0.3. Just scale it down kind of like he's blinking. And then we'll do a repeat of -1. So it basically loops indefinitely. And a yo-yo true is going to make it open and close and open and close and just go back and forth. So let's see. Do a refresh on this. It doesn't seem to work. So let's see if we inspect the element, if we have any errors, and we do. So it says I not found. GSAP target not found. So it doesn't find the eyes. So let's go here and look it up. Left shadow, eye shadow. Should be somewhere in here. It might be actually a class. No, it's right eye and left eye. I'm just going to remove this and just keep eye like that and hit save. Okay, let's do another refresh. Zoom in. It says eye is still not found. Oh, so it doesn't matter if I modify it here because we just added it in the index HTML. So I actually need to modify it from here. So let's go down here, find those damn eyes and update it correctly. Okay, here we go. Let's get rid of that. Just keep eye. I guess if you want to animate it independently, you can do that. So there we go. It looks quite weird because of that transform origin again. So we can add a transform origin to the center now. So it scales from up and down as well. Right now it just scales from the bottom towards the top. So let's go here and we can again use that set. gsap.set to set a property basically. So let's do hashtag. We'll grab the eye again and we'll set the transform origin to the center. I hit save. And there we go. So now it does it in the middle like that. That's cool. I also want to add a delay to this so he doesn't blink like he's going nuts and he smoked crack cocaine. So we can add a repeat delay here. So there's a specific delay for repeat. I'll just do 0.5. And I'll also add an easing of power to the ease out. That should be it. That should be our eyes animating in and out. So there we go. Boom, boom. Mess around with this. It's quite fun to just be silly. I'm going to go back here to the index HTML and also get his eyebrows because I believe I selected those as well. And I believe it's right eyebrow and left eyebrow, so I'm going to quickly modify it. Again, make sure you do this in the index.html. So just scroll till you find an ID. Here we go, with left eyebrow and right eyebrow. So just remove it, just keep it eyebrow. And after this from to, just go down here at the bottom, do gsap from to. I don't know, I just moved them up a little bit. I thought that looked quite cool. just experiment with it, see what you like. I'm gonna basically copy over everything here. Just do y -1 and then I'll do the repeat again to -1. I'll do the yo-yo to true and repeat delay 0.5 and ease power to the ease out. And that should be it. Let's see. As you can see, his eyebrows just slightly move up and down. So that's cute. And that's going to be it. All right. So now all we have left to do is click join. And when we click join, this form is going to animate out and a nice text is going to pop up and our little guy is going to wave to us. So that's going to be left for the final section. So I'll see you there. Okay, let's finish up our little character here and our form submission. So let's go back to the code here. We need to add a little bit of HTML for that final message when the form gets submitted. So let me scroll up here and collapse this character for us. So, because we don't need that anymore for now. Just close up this SVG here. And what we're going to do is after him here, still in the form, we'll add a submitted class. In here, I'll just add a little message saying thanks for submitting. Like that. I'll add a little break. Like that. I'll say, you'll hear from us soon. Then you can add a little emoji. Let me copy it over from here. I use the hand clap emoji because I'm cool. I know that doesn't make me cool. Let me alone. Okay, hit save. So now let's add a bit of styling. So I basically want to add it in the middle of our screen. It's going to be super simple. Just add a position absolute to it, literally, and just center it. So dot submitted. We'll do a position absolute. We'll do a left 50. And we'll do a top 50. Okay. Do a color of that gray. So 777474. Do a font size of 1 rem. Pointer events none, because I don't want to be able to click on it. We'll align the text. I don't think I need to align the text. Yeah, let's do a text align, center, and let's take a look on how it looks. So there it is. I just need to add a transform translate to put it in the center. Transform, translate, minus 50% and minus 50%. That should drop it straight in the middle. Now we can do gsap set opacity 0, or we can just do opacity 0 here to hide it. Awesome. So we got that going. That's perfect. And now we can start animating it. Woo. So let's go back here. Go to app.js. So what I want to do can be super simple. So when we click on that button, so when we click on the submit button, let's grab that. Submit button, const button equal to document.query selector. We'll grab the button, and then we'll create another timeline. So we're gonna call this TL3. We're gonna do gsap.timeline, curly brackets. I'm gonna set the defaults here. I'm gonna do duration 0.75 and an ease of power to the ease out, and hit save. Okay. All right. And then we're going to grab the button to add event listener. So when we click on it, we'll fade out the form or make the form a bit smaller. So, and then we're going to pop in that message. So what I'm going to do is say e.prevent default here. And the reason why I want to do this is because when we click on the join button, the page refreshes, which is going to ruin our animation. So this basically stops the page from refreshing. And then we're going to do TL3 2. I'm going to grab the contact right, comma, contact left. So you can grab both of them like this. It's totally fine. I'm going to move the Y down to 30 and then just fade it out a little bit. So I'm going to add opacity 0, and I'm also going to remove the pointer events. So pointer events, I'm going to set it to none. So nothing is clickable anymore. Let's take a look. Click that, and it has a nice fade out to it. Okay, and after that fades out, I want to pop that text back in. I also want to scale it down slightly. So I'm going to grab the form and do a scale of 0.8 on it. Let's see how that looks like. Whoop, like that. But I want it to happen at the same time. So I can add a comma and a smaller than symbol. And now these two are going to run at the same time. Whoop, that looks quite cool. And finally, what I want to do is TL3.from2, grab that submitted that we just made, and bring up the opacity of it. Opacity 0 to opacity 1. And we can actually do a little movement to this as well. So we're moving it down here, and here we can move it up. So from 30 to 0, Y0, and hit save. Let's see. Doop, so that moves down, and that slowly pops back up. That's really cool. All right, there we go. And I guess if you want to add a little bit more to here, I did select the hand with the SVG. So if you want to add the hand wave, all you need to do is say gsap from to. I added a ID of hand and just did a bit of rotation to it. Rotation from 0 and y0 to rotation -10, y2, and a little elastic effect. Ease elastic. So it goes basically back and forth. 3 and 0.3. That's the one I found that looks really nice. And then set the duration to it so it's a bit longer and a bit of a delay to it of 1 second. Okay? Because we're basically moving it from rotation 0 to -10. And then if there's a strong elastic one here, it's going to whoop, 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 kind of make it look like a hand wave. There we go. That's quite cool. Now the transform origin is a bit weird because I think it does it from the center. So we can set it to the left side. gsap.set. We can grab the hand and do a transform origin to the left side. Oops. Make sure you add your curly brackets. Transform origin to left and hit save. Doop, doop. And there we go. We have our nice little wave. So there we go. How fun is that? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, so that's pretty much it for this one. In the next episode, which is going to be our final one, I'm just going to show you quickly how I put the SVG together and make it a bit more mobile friendly as well. So I'll see you there. Okay, let's make this a bit more mobile friendly and then we are done. Hope you loved this project because I really liked it. Okay, let's pull this up here. I'll do a refresh and just open the inspect up like that. Let's kind of squeeze it in here like that. Okay, so one thing we're gonna do is, I guess we could just click on this and that'll be fine. So then we don't need to expand this. Oh, my browser is being so silly. Okay, I'll just keep it like that if that's okay with you. Okay, just some simple styling. Let's go over to style.css. Open it up here. We can add a media screen. Where's the add symbol? There we go, add media. Again, you can add more if you want to make it really nice. I'm just going to give you a quick example here on how we can modify this. So I'll do 812 pixels. That should be okay. I'll just grab the form and increase the size of it. So width, I'll do 90 VW, and min height, just expand it a bit more because we're on a small screen. And hit save. Let's see. Go back here. There we go. So it's much bigger now. Now what I want to do is make this a column because right now it's flex row. So we have 2 sections. I just want to make it 1. So let's go back here and make it a row column. Damn. Flex direction column. And I'll also change the padding a little bit, add more padding to the top and less padding on the left and right. There we go. Much nicer. Cool. Is there anything else we really need here? I guess you can add another one because this is still quite big. It would be something like that, really. Let me just do, I actually did the iPhone version. I optimized it for that. So that was iPhone, was it this one? Yeah, iPhone 10. Again, feel free to do many more if you really want to. I'll just do it quickly here. I'll scale down our character a little bit. Character, transform, scale, do 0.4. And add that translate back to it. Make sure you do this 0% and 30%. Whatever you had up there, just copy paste it and just change the scale of it. There we go, much smaller, much nicer. Oh, that's looking quite okay. I guess this elastic band is the last thing that we need to fix because it's quite large right now. So let's see here on the path we just add a width, let's see if this works, 100 pixels, does that change it? I don't think width actually works on the path here, unfortunately. So let's see, if I do 100%, will that stretch it out to the size of it? No, it doesn't. That's a shame. What about the SVG? Let's grab the SVG here and add a width of 100% to it. There we go, that's what we need to do. So let's head over to here. We'll grab that SVG. I'm not sure what it's called. Let's go take a look. Line SVG. So line SVG and add a width of 100%. And there we go. Now it's all nice and clean. So there we go. That's a quick mobile optimization there for you. Again, not really focused on that in this course, but I still wanted to add it to make it look nice. Okay, so let me show you how I did the character really quickly before I go. So I just imported it in Figma. So he got imported in, just searched one up on Google, any character, just make sure it's SVG. And then I double clicked on him. I found his arm, just double clicked and just grabbed all the portions holding down Shift. So this part and this part, it's gonna be highlighted there. And then move it around to see what I have selected. So I just selected everything, group them together. So group, and then I just named it hand here. And then when I exported it, so export, clicked on the three dots here, when you go over to make sure it's SVG, and do include ID attribute. And that's it. That's all you need to do. And then you can select it in JavaScript just fine and start animating it with GSAP. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed this project. Thank you so much for watching. Let's move on to more fun stuff.